So the Gentry family first moved to Middle Tennessee in the early 1800s and started acquiring the land for our farm in 1848. The Hatchers started acquiring their land in 1847, so we were right there when we first both came to Williamson County and bought our farms. The Gentry farm actually came through a line of women. Samuel Fielding Glass was the first one to acquire the land, and then it was women after that, Corinne Glass Gordon and Corinne Chanel, and then my grandmother Rebecca, and then my dad. And now I'm the next generation, the sixth generation. Gentry Farm has always been a working farm, but my parents kind of came to a crossroads when I was little where they were like, traditional row cropping wasn't making as much money. And local Girl Scout troops and friends and families were like, can we come do this? Can we come in and hang out on the farm? And so the business that we know now as Gentry Farm started out very small. It was just, some pumpkins in a field, and then we started doing hay rides, and then it has obviously grown to what we all know as Gentry Farm today, where we get to bring so many people from the community to our farm, which is why we do it. We love to share the farm with others.
So here at Hatcher Dairy, we're a sixth generation dairy farm out here in Arno, Tennessee. It was a very booming farming community many years ago, and we've got 100 dairy cows now that we milk in current day. My great-great-granddad started with a few cows, and we've gone through journal entries of they would milk the cow, make butter and cream, and sell that locally here. And we know where we've come from, and we've come a long way, but we don't forget where we come from and our roots. So each generation here at the dairy has had an imprint for the future. And so I think about when my great-granddad, when electricity first came to the area, how big of a deal that was to implement that new technology into the day-to-day operations and milking the cows. And then my granddad building new and upgrading the facilities, and then my dad having a vision to bottle and sell our own milk, and now we've implemented the latest technology, which is robotic milking, which is pretty remarkable. Been a game changer for both the four-legged animals and the farmers, the humans. It's pretty remarkable to see the cows do it all themselves, and we do offer tours of that. We've opened up our doors, we've upgraded our facilities to be more accommodating for field trips and educational tours, and everybody can see where we bottle the milk in our creamery. They can see where we used to milk the cows for 80 years in our old block milking parlor, and then step into the future with the robotic milking in our newest edition, and see the cows in there getting milk and milking themselves and doing it all themselves, and see some of our old barns as well. So we integrated new with old, but we really wanted to highlight the past too, and each generation and what they've added and contributed, because dairy farming is a lot of work. It's 7 days a week, 365, and been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears over the past almost 200 years. I'd always heard about the Gentrys and the farm, and then her granddad being this local legend, but I didn't know she existed. So some mutual friends, and I actually went to high school with her college roommate, kind of synced us up, and the first time that we met, it was like we'd known each other our whole lives when we first met and started talking and knew all the same people, and it's just crazy how life ties all that in, and then just happened to be two farming families. And I'd always think back to, there was a best of Williamson County Farming Award, and I'm real competitive, and we would get second place a lot to Gentry's farm, and I would get so agitated at that. I'm like, I'm not gonna go get second place to them again. And then I guess if you can't beat them, then you join them. I remember, meeting her dad, and I think everybody else just kind of disappeared, and then her dad and I just talked farming. I mean, nobody get a word in edgewise. We've got that farming connection and tie-in, and so I think it was like a kind of a fairy tale thing. And we did a small intimate wedding with just immediate family, because we could have filled up the Titans football stadium with as many people as both of our families know. But
I will say, the day of our wedding, he worked the Franklin Farmers Market that morning.
I did. And then milked cows the next morning, so there was no honeymoon.
We didn't. So, we just stopped real quick, got married, and then continued on working.
Yeah, that's the dairy. But she was brave enough to marry a dairy farmer, which is a whole different thing. It's a whole thing. So, but real similar background stories, farms, families are incredible. Yeah, and we've kind of merged, and I help them, they help us. We barter, and that's what farmers do, so.
Some of the agritourism things that Gentry Farm does, I've been trying to use some of those things over here now that we've gotten our agritourism going again. The experiences for kids and having hands-on play experiences and teaching moments, so.
And then our son, I don't know if he has a favorite farm yet. He keeps bouncing back.
Well, every day I'm like, what do you want to do today? He's like, go to Gentry Farm.
Yeah.
So my granddad, Jimmy Gentry, was such an iconic member of the Franklin community. He was very important to me because he was my granddaddy. But he had just a wonderful story. He was born and raised in Franklin, played football at Franklin High School, met his future wife there when they were at Franklin High. But his story became a greater story when he was sent off for World War II. And he went overseas for the first time. He left Tennessee for the first time when he was going to fight in World War II. And he ended up at a place called Dachau, and he helped liberate that concentration camp. Here he was, this young man from Franklin, Tennessee, seeing all these things. He didn't know at the time what he was seeing, but it became such an important part of American history. So he came home, and he didn't talk about it for the longest time, and understandably, it was a hard thing to see and endure and go through. And he came home and he became a football coach. So he was out on the field coaching football. He coached at multiple schools in Franklin. And one day someone came up to him and said, you have to tell the story. You have to share what happened to you. So from then on, he began to talk about the story, and he wrote a book. He did a documentary where he actually went back to Dachau and just became this community advocate for the stories of World War II and the survivors. And he got to do many, many cool things. But my granddaddy just had this charisma. That's what I remember most about him. And anyone that met him has a wonderful story about him. From just meeting him on the side of the street or in Leaper's Fork or down at the factory, he was always sketching and meeting people and telling them stories. He was a great storyteller. One thing I will say that both of our families instilled in us is that we're just stewards of the land. We're here for a generation at a time to take care of the land, take care of the animals that live on the land, and preserve it for the next generation. We know that that's what all the generations before us have done for us, and we know how hard it has been for them. So it's an honor to be able to keep it going and keep, it is hard work. Like he said, it's extremely hard work. Just to see our son living here and raising him with our niece and nephew, and then our farm as well, see all the grandkids, that's why you do it,
I think the best way to grow up is on a farm, the life lessons and the hard work and work before play. That's what was always instilled with me, and it wasn't necessarily forced on us, like you're going to do this or else. It was, hey, it's here, you do what you feel your heart tells you to do, and mine, it's kind of in my DNA. I went to college, got an ag degree, and thought I'm going to do this.
In Williamson County, agritourism has become a major component for the farms that are left here. Most farms, you kind of have to figure out a new avenue to bring in some extra income, and agritourism is a great way to do that. And so we have lots of farming friends in the county that we've talked to through the years, and my parents, they were kind of the pioneers of the agritourism movement in the county. It's very important in today's age because so many people long for experiences today. And to be able to host people on your farm, educate them, for them to learn about your farming practices is a big thing. And it also helps, like I said, offset some costs that you may need for your farm.
Well, and a lot of people are 3 generations removed from farming. And I think with the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, that kind of reset and realigned people on, with the overnight food supply being impacted, hey, I might need to start seeing where my local farms are to locally source this stuff closer to home. So, providing an experience that they can learn about where their food comes from, and also they can purchase the product here directly as well. And Williamson County is a very agriculture-rich history. And in the 50 years ago, there's over 100 dairies in this county, and now there's only 2 left. So we don't feel like we just promote just Hatcher Family Dairy. We want to represent all of dairy farmers, no matter where they are. We're no different, no better than any other farm in the world, but that's just what works with us and our practices to keep going.
It was a great privilege of mine to be able to apply for a Century Farm application for the Hatchers about a year ago. Some of the family members had always wanted to do it, but no one had actually taken the time to fill out the application. So I took it upon myself to do that, and it took us on this great history journey. We learned a lot about the family, and we finally got our Century Farm sign. I remember when I got it in the mail, I almost cried, because it really is just such a big deal in that we get that certification, 150 years of continuous agriculture in Tennessee. You know, I feel like it's honoring each generation that came before us and the hard work that they put into the dairy to keep it going and agriculture continuously going on the farm. So that was a big deal for the Hatcher family. And
when people come and visit, we hope that they have a good experience and that they learn, because a lot of people don't know where food comes from. I've heard kids on some school field trips think milk and food just comes from the grocery store. So there's a story behind it. There's farms behind that, and I want them to be educated and have a great time at the same time. So there's a balance there, and you can say when you're drinking the product that, hey, I know where this comes from. I know the farmer. I met him. I saw where they do it. I saw the cows, and we take pride in that too, because our name is on the bottle of milk. So we stand behind that.